Hey there, Mini Constant Worlds is a podcast following the meta disjointed journey through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King.
I'm Taryn, they, them. I have a thing that it does. I can't say. It makes more sense if I go second, and I didn't go second this time. So
I actually usually have you set for first. I don't even bother changing the top part of this anymore.
I know, but I have a thing that I need to. I have a story that I need to tell.
Gotcha. I'm Kat, she, her, and I am very tired.
I am too, but my story is I found a weapon hidden in our house today.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it was in the laundry room. Uh-huh. It's not actually a weapon, it's just an X-Acto knife.
Oh.
So, you know how the cabinets, there's a space between the cabinets and the ceiling? So I was dusting. I've been waiting all day. I've been waiting to tell you this because I've been this is going to be better on recording. So there's a space between the cabinets and the ceiling. And I was dusting because it's time for cleaning. It's cleaning time. And I get the duster thing up there and it's it hits stuff. I'm there shouldn't be anything up here. I wasn't even sure I was going to dust up here because you know how when you're dusting sometimes and you get to a space and you're there's going to be too much dust here and I don't want to deal with this. She's nodding. Just to make it clear to anybody because you can't see what's happening. She has nodded sagely at me. Yes, she is aware of what I'm talking about. You get to that space. I get to that space where there's too much stuff, right? And I think to myself, I don't know if I want to deal with this because there's going to be way too much dust up here. But you know what? I'll run the thing along and see how bad this is going to be. And if it's not that bad, I'll deal with it. And if it's super bad, I'm not touching this. No one's ever going to look up here. I will let this continue to be where dust lives. This can be its home. And I kind of run the duster along and I hit stuff and there shouldn't be stuff up here. I know we have not put any stuff up here.
It's too high. We're not that tall.
No,
I don't think anyone's that tall.
I had to get the little ladder out to find, I'm getting to that point of the story, but no, it's way too tall. You could maybe put, decorations up there, or, if we had if we were a family and bought industrial-sized anything that we needed to store, maybe we could put that up there. I don't actually understand why. Well, maybe there's a gap for ventilation. I don't know. I don't know why there's a gap there. To me, if I was building this on a video game or something, I'd put these cabinets all the way to the ceiling. But my houses always look wonky. They never look right. So don't listen to me. So I hit stuff, and my thought is, what if it's valuable? And not what if it's valuable, we'll keep it, but what if it's valuable and we need to make sure the landlord knows that it's here, right? So I get the little ladder out and I get it out and I'm fuck, this sucks, especially because the laundry, there's next to no space. Sorry to any international listeners or podcasters that we're in America and they don't put our fucking washer in the kitchen. We don't ask for that. We don't choose that's not where the washer goes in our kitchen or in our bathroom. We'd love it to be there and love for it to be in more places. I might still be salty about that shit.
I think it depends, because you remember that apartment we looked at before we moved into the last place?
Were they
there was a big full-size washer and dryer in the master bedroom's bathroom, and you barely had enough space to squeeze past the machine and the cabinet or the counter so you could even get to the toilet.
It should have just been a laundry room. They just kind of made it a bathroom so that way they could say there was another bathroom.
And even then, I don't even know what the fuck that was, because it was technically a half bath, because there wasn't a shower. It was just a toilet and the counter. I think that they took out the tub or shower or whatever to put the crappy washing and drying machines there that didn't fit. And legitimately, you have to, turn to your side and do the, squeeze between to get between those machine and that counter to just go to the toilet.
No, it was ridiculous. They wanted to be able to say that. Oh, I can't.
It was a hot
that
mess.
place. that whole place, I mean, that entire rental company was something, but that apartment complex was a hot mess.
It was.
I love where we live now. The primary bedroom is, I mean, you know, it's gorgeous. It has like little USB thingies in the thing. My bedroom is fantastic. I got a bathtub. I have a bathroom in my room. Like, it's technically one of those apartments that's a double primary, but it's really, like, one of them is definitely not, but...
Yeah, it's a double master, but one of them is much larger and has a way bigger closet and shit than the other one.
Yeah, it's really just, I don't know. But I love my room doesn't need to be it doesn't, never mind. My story, so I get up on the ladder, and I look up there, and what it is it's leftovers from whoever put the cabinetry in the laundry room. Mm-hmm. There's like masking tape, I threw that stuff away, but there was an X-Acto knife up there, which is now sitting on top of the dryer. Just so if you go in there and you're like, why is this here? This is the story. That's why it's there. But we had like a hidden... We had hidden stuff.
You know what? That's a lot better than the several apartments ago with the drug paraphernalia in the hall closet. That was like there was a little ridge.
Find it until we were like leaving.
No, we found it halfway through.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
I can't even remember anymore.
In the hall closet, there was like this little ridge just above it. I was storing games because I have a fuck ton of games. By the way, I collect Monopoly sets.
Yeah, I was gonna say she does also have a shit ton of video games, but she means board games right now.
Board games and puzzles. And I was putting something on this like lip to see like what was up there. And yeah, drug paraphernalia. I'm not going to go into what it was, but it was some shit.
I don't remember. What I will say is I don't think it was like bongs. I don't think it wasn't anything that's illegal now.
Yeah, no, it's something you still would have to hide.
Yeah, I think we just threw it away.
We did, yeah.
I think we just tossed it in the dumpster.
Yeah. But we lived there for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I found it.
We didn't find it until halfway.
Yeah. 3-ish years in. Found it.
Yeah.
Purely by accident. I'm just glad it wasn't something that like went in a person.
So when you said went in a person, my brain took a second to get to needles. For a second, I was like, what would be such a problem if we found sex toys? Like, you can still throw them away. It's fine.
That's true. But yeah, no, that's not where I went with that.
Oh my god, going to Dollar Tree one time, I found syringes in like the parking lot, like needles and syringes. And I went inside and had them just give me shopping bags. And they're like, why? What do you... Because I think they thought I was going to steal. Obviously, this Dollar Tree's not in the best of areas. And I explained, I'm like, there's a needle outside. I don't really want to touch it. I'm going to throw it away. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they just handed me, like, all the shopping bags at that point.
Amazing.
Well, because it shouldn't stay on the ground.
No, it shouldn't.
But what are you going to do? I mean, who do you call in that case? Like, one, I'm not calling the cops. And two, even if you did call the cops, what are they gonna do? Like,
you want a great story of something on the ground that's related to Stephen King?
Is it Stephen King after his van accident?
No. No, it's not.
So I don't mean to be fucked up.
That's valid. No. And we'll probably tell the story again when we actually get to it. But when me and my friend in high school had gone to see Secret Window, and spoilers for Secret Window here, at the end, he's eating corn on the cob, because he's like buried the people out there.
I didn't know if you meant your friend or if you meant the person in Secret Window.
The person in Secret Window.
Because of where we're from, corn on the cob is a valid thing that could have been served in or near the theater.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So the end of the movie, he's eating corn on the cob, and that's like how the movie ends. And there's actually an alternate ending that goes into more depth and like makes it very clear that the reason that matters is because he's grown corn over where he's buried the bodies of the people that he killed.
Oh my God.
And so we ended up going out the like back door rather than going out the front. Cause we were teenagers and this is what teenagers do. Shit like that. And we come out the door and I don't know if somebody had worked out which door was going to be secret window or if this was just the weirdest fucking coincidence ever. But there is a half-eaten piece of corn on the cob on the ground right outside the
Oh my God.
door to the exit.
Oh my gosh.
And this is why I don't know if somebody like worked out like, okay, I think, this has got to be it. This has got to be the corn on the cob movie.
Maybe they had seen it.
Yeah.
And so they came out the door. Or maybe they were serving it in the theater. I don't know.
They weren't. It's the theater I used to work for. If you think
I
for
was gonna
one
ask.
fucking moment those people were going to spring for corn on the cob.
Why are you saying spring? I feel like it's cheaper than like pretzels or nachos.
We didn't serve either of those things.
Did you really not?
We did not. They were too expensive.
I know you had popcorn.
We had popcorn and
hot
hot dogs.
Right? Was that really it?
That was it.
And like prepackaged candy.
Yep. And like, because we even asked, like, because we had one of the machines for nacho cheese and stuff. We asked if we could get that because we got to eat some popcorn and stuff on our break. I think we stupidly assumed, being also teenagers working in a movie theater, that we'd get to also eat the nachos.
No.
I don't think there was any dream of ever having to get to eat the nachos.
No, a lot of times they come like prepackaged portions.
But we had asked and they were just like, no, they're too expensive, and they didn't want to deal with the cleaning of the nacho cheese.
Oh my God, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, a lot of the things that they did were, I want to make it very clear, I am not condoning anything. If you know Kat, and you know what theater she used to work at, because she's not calling it out or calling any of this out for a reason. But if you know any of those things, I'm not condoning this theater or any of the owners or managers' behavior in any fucking way. That actually makes a lot of business sense. I wouldn't want... You know why? Because at the bowling alley, we did serve nachos.
Yeah.
And cleaning up after them was a bitch.
Yeah.
It was awful. Oh my God. Cleaning the nacho dispenser. Which, by the way, we dispensed it. It's not like other people dispensed it. It was always a nightmare.
Just really gross. Like, some of the people like had been working there for a really long time, and they had other friends who had worked there. And I mean, it was a typical place where a lot of the teenagers in town worked at some point, but you kind of moved on later. So you'd had friends who used to, and at this point, I'm someone's friend who used to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. It just goes down the line.
Yeah.
But one of the people who had like friends in the legacy program of working for this fucking theater, they had said that they used to sell nachos and it would get really moldy, and that's why they didn't want to clean that shit. Which, fair. And I can say, like, our butter pumps got real gross, and we cleaned those weekly. So.
Yeah. Again, because I used to work at a bowling alley in a different but nearby city. Can confirm, yes, nacho cheese we had to clean it, like, not like it was on the list of, like, not, I think, every night, but every other night or so, because it closed most of the time. And it would get moldy. If you did not clean it, it would get moldy. And if you didn't clean the, like, nozzles, it was very fucking gross. But I learned how to make very good grilled cheese sandwiches and how to, like, toast buns for hamburgers and basically just how to use a grill at that job. And so thank you, that job, for making me gain like 100 pounds. Props to you.
But you know what this means is that when we strike it rich with the lottery or something, we can invest in a hybrid bowling alley movie theater and know what we're doing.
Oh my God, that actually would be great. Like, if you showed certain because what the fuck are you doing? Like, I will tell you, actually, you're just drinking between your turn rounds of bowling. The only problem with that is that it's loud.
Yeah.
But honestly, movie theaters have gotten so fucking loud.
Well, also you could get like those little things that they have at like the drive-thrus to have people set right next to them.
Yeah.
So that, you know, the balls can be
Nobody
really loud.
can steal this. We have already come up with this. You can't steal this. We have the evidence right here.
We are looking for investors. We know what we're doing.
Reno is a great place for something like that too. For like gimmicky shit that people who are under 21, they can enjoy it, but over 21 you can still get wasted doing it. And people clearly, because of the movie theaters that sell alcohol, enjoy getting wasted at the movies. And oh my god, people would like get rolled out of that bowling alley. It's just absolutely fucking tanked. So I can tell you that is like the alcoholics. That's all they do. That's all alcoholics enjoy doing is bowling, which is the worst idea. Hand somebody absolutely blackout drunk a fucking cannonball, a like 30-pound fucking ball, and tell them, okay, now aim like 20 feet that way at those 10 little pins. Make sure you only roll the ball. You don't want it to go in the gutters. It's a night. It's the dumbest shit in the world. I don't know how more people don't die at bowling alleys. Anyways.
It's kept under wraps. It's a bowling alley cover-up.
Don't get me started, because I could buy it.
Anywho, so that's my Stephen King and Something on the Ground story. And again, it will come up again when we actually read. I think the short story is called Secret Window, and it's in like 4 to Midnight or something like that. It's another short story collection. But it's not Different Seasons, where Shawshank and The Body are.
So many of his short stories get turned into movies that do incredibly well. And I feel like his full-length stories get turned into movies that kind of suck.
Yeah. I mean,
The Mist notwithstanding.
we do talk a lot about how much we love it, which, you know, let's segue into that. As you already have found out, we couldn't finish The Gunslinger.
We're never going to finish The Gunslinger.
We're never going to finish The Gunslinger. So there's a direct reference. According to Stephen King's website, that's why we're trusting this as a reference, where the name Legion is brought up. And we will specify the line, or we've already specified the line. I don't know. You know what? I hope everyone had a nice Christmas.
I feel like I'm dead inside.
Or Yule. Or both.
I celebrate both.
I don't know when Hanukkah was, but I hope you had a nice one of those too.
It should. I think it's past. I wonder when Kwanzaa is. I think that probably has happened too.
Probably. I hope you had a nice holiday season.
When is Ramadan?
No idea. Either way, just a reminder, we're going to be quiet next month. We will be out for January, and we will be back on February 7th, starting it. So you have plenty of time. We'll get more into that in a bit, though. So.
Oh my god.
Trigger warnings for this episode, and again, these are for The Gunslinger, which is why they're going to come up through this episode. We have child death, gun violence, animal death, violence in general, gore, abortion, sexual content, and murder.
Every time you say abortion.
So we've basically finished up chapter 4.
How did we make abortion funny? Like, sorry. I'm sorry.
We finished up chapter 4, which was titled The Slow Mutants. And then we tried to read through chapter 5, which is The Gunslinger and the Man in Black, and then we had to stop. So we'll get into it, but
this feels like a trick of the Man in Black.
He's a wily motherfucker. So we did the Mist. And oh dear God, the fucking Mist.
Just for all the Game Grumps fans out there, I shot and then I missed. And I shot, missed again. Shot again, missed. Reloaded. I can't remember what Nancy Drew game they were playing, but they were playing one of the Nancy Drew like computer games, and that's when that comes up. And it's one of those jokes that's funny at first, then they take it too far and it's not funny anymore. Then they take it so far it gets funny again. And I think Key and Peele are probably some of the masters of that kind of comedy. Game Grumps can do it sometimes, not all the time, but that is one of the few times where they take something too far and then it cycles all the way back around to being funny again. And it's so funny, and every single time we talk about the title of The Mist, my brain just starts a shot and then a mist and then a shot and a mist again. It's a different kind of mist.
But it also missed.
Oh my god, it did.
We were not fans.
Fan of Ollie.
Fan of Ollie. Fan of
Ollie supremacy.
And Mrs. Repler, I think it was.
Yeah.
They were solid characters.
Ship it.
So, back into the Slow Mutants. Yeah, we got a bunch of Mist references, so we read the fucking Mist. And I'm just gonna finish this out, because we were so close to the end of chapter 4 even. But they eventually the two, like, kind of escape, and Jake falls into a pit, and as he's, like, hanging there, he reminds Roland of the Hanging Man, or the Hanged Man tarot card, and eventually, like, Jake falls, and Roland follows the Man in Black's voice, because he was told he had to pick. He could either talk to the Man in Black, or he could save Jake.
He's like, oh, bye.
Peace. So much like the napkins back in The Eyes of the Dragon taking fucking forever to pay off, we are finally meeting the Man in Black. Seriously, yeah, we're finally at that. Chapter 5, the Gunslinger and the Man in Black. It is time to cash the check and the palaver begin.
So before we start with that, I want to talk a little bit, like, and I'm so sorry to everybody, but I can't stop myself. Back at the references to The Mist.
How dare.
I know.
How dare you make us live this again?
I know, I'm so sorry. When he picks up the bow and the quiver of arrows, this was the big thing to me that made me say, like, oh, this is, like, we have to swap here, because the big thing in The Mist is that it's the Arrowhead Project. I think that it's something that we really have to note, that the arrows that he grabs are shit. They do not work right. He can't, like, when he's trying to use them, he cannot, like, they do not work correctly. The Arrowhead Project does not work. Obviously, it doesn't work for what it's intended to work for. Right? I think that that's a parallel. Like, I think it's meant the same. We've talked a couple times now about this idea that, like, things in one world are represented by something else in the other world. So the Arrowhead Project, I think, is represented by these arrows in this world. And the fact that these arrows and this bow are shit, I think it's showing us, like, the Arrowhead Project was shit. It didn't work.
As was the Mist book story, short story.
Right?
Fuck that story.
Right? But there's something else here that I think is important. Like, the mutants are there, and the mutants look a lot like the creatures that come out of the Mist. But that's not what they call out in that scene as being what's killing the people. It's the gas itself. Like, they talk about that. They say, oh, there's a gas that was a weapon. And it's made, like, I already wondered that, because that's what I thought with the Mist. I'm like, oh, wasn't there, like, a mist that was killing people? And obviously, when you read it and you watch it, it's these creatures seem like they're the ones doing this killing. And it's entirely possible that Roland and Jake are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. It's also possible, like, Van A gives bad information to Roland, like, as a teacher. Like, you find that, like, they're all unreliable, right? Because they don't know.
Every Stephen King character is unreliable as a storyteller, as a narrator, as a person.
Yes, they're flawed.
They're very flawed. You gotta be careful with these guys and gals and theys. They're not good people. None of these people are good people. Don't trust a Stephen King character.
No, I feel like that's the number one, like, and if Stephen King's really trying to make them seem trustworthy, trust them less.
You know what? I would trust the Man in Black because I know I couldn't trust a word coming out of him.
Yeah.
Except for if it's in his own personal interest. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I totally believe you that you're going to do that thing.
And even then you can't trust it because he's so bad at doing anything in his own personal interest. Anything that he tries to do or plans is going to fail.
You know, it doesn't matter. At this point, I just like the Man in Black more than anybody else.
No, I do too. It's wild. And it's not just because Matthew McConaughey does such a great job in the movie. I love Idris Elba. I thought Idris Elba did a great job with what he was given. Matthew McConaughey, and admittedly, the characters aren't perfect. I'm talking about with the material that they are handed, they do such an amazing job. Though I still think if Idris Elba had not been Roland, Ryan Reynolds would have done a really interesting Man in Black. Just based on how he is in the books. Anyways, though, like, going back to... I did not take my ADHD medication today. Y'all are in for, like, a wild, like, I can't finish sentences. It's gonna be crazy.
Or a really heavily edited episode.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah, if I sound like everything is a Franken bit, like, that's actually Kat doing everyone a solid. I consent to the Franken bits. But no, I had thought at the time that it was the gas. And I think I talked about that in the missed episode. This lends more to that to me. This idea that, like, it's the gas, it's the mist that actually is doing the killing. And this thing with, like, these awful arrows, these arrows that don't work. Well, the Arrowhead Project didn't work the way that it was planned. I think that that's another clue. I think that these are all clues that, like, nothing is as it seems, I think. And that you need to look 2, 3, 4 times at the mist. Keep looking at that piece of shit because it's not the way that it's.
There's a reason that it got its own novella. Like,
yeah.
Getting pulled out of Dark Forces, which I tracked down a copy of, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And then getting into Skeleton Crew, but then still being pulled for its own novella. There's not a lot that do that. I think he did it with The Body as well.
Yeah.
But I don't even think he did that with Shawshank. So.
No, like, for something that he says he came up with very quickly in a supermarket, it's clear that he cared quite a bit about the mist.
Yeah.
Like, it's as
we
much
razz it, but
yeah,
we respect art.
No, for real. And I think the way that Stephen King would describe it is that it's a keystone. Because he uses that term keystone a lot.
Yeah.
Something about it is really important. So as much as we fucking hate it,
yeah,
it's gonna keep coming up, I think.
Well, and we'll see if, like, the lens of time makes it a more, like, enjoyable thing. Like, the memories are better. Because, like, I did not enjoy Misery, but now I think about it fondly.
Right?
It's like, okay. I wonder how I would feel if I reread it.
I think I actually put something on Instagram that was like justice for Annie Wilkes.
Yes.
I feel totally different
about... It's crazy. It's crazy.
Could also just be that we're old now.
That's true, too.
But legitimately, I don't know. Keep an eye out for a running commentary on the movie, because I think that's coming at some point.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
Belated Christmas Yule present. I'm so sorry. I'm not, but I am. But that was my big pause moment, I think.
All right. Okay, so to begin with, what is a palaver? According to, and I did use your preferred dictionary.
You mean my family's dictionary?
Yeah. So according to Merriam-Webster, A long parley, usually between persons of different cultures or levels of sophistication. Idle talk, misleading or beguiling speech. That is what a palaver is. The man in black sends the gunslinger to gather some wood and tells him to remember his Isaac, which I'm of the impression is biblical in nature to Abraham and Isaac.
Yeah. So I also, when he sends him to gather the wood, that's interesting because didn't Roland send Jake to gather wood?
That was the point, is basically mimic.
Yeah.
Mimic what your Isaac did.
So that's right. I get that, but it's, one, Roland does it, and two, the man in black is kind of presented as older than Roland, and also because he was fucking Roland's mom, kind of a fucked up father figure. And so obviously I know that you're quite familiar with the idea of like maiden, mother, and crone. We have like the opposite. We have like the boy, the man,
father,
and the fucking old guy. Like, I don't know what the male version of this is.
Let's see. What would be the opposite of a crone? A scallywag?
Maybe. I was just gonna call him a crone.
Well, as Taryn mentioned, Roland does what he is told.
He's very good at that.
And
it's like 99% of what Roland does for the entire series.
The man in black uses magic instead of matches to light the fire because he thought Roland might enjoy the magic.
Like Ella Enchanted versions of does what he's told. And honestly, Roland probably did enjoy the magic. Like he would never admit it, but...
Upon revealing his face to Roland, which he claims is his born face, and this is the man in black, Roland mentions that he had expected an older man. And the man in black drops the comment that he's nearly as immortal as Roland. He also warns Roland he won't see another sunset for a while.
Roland's so dumb sometimes. It's like, what do you mean almost as immortal as me? It's like, I don't know, I'm trying to tell you that you're like an eldritch god, dude, but you are the eldritch god of dumbness. So, you're the eldritch god of the himbos. So, I can't help you.
And then the tarot reading begins.
We made it! We made it to the tarot reading. It's only been like 6 months, but we made it. We did it. The thing that actually started to break me as a teenager and break me out of my programming. We made it to the tarot reading. I'm so excited. I'm excited.
So the deck is composed of traditional cards and some of the Man in Black's own additions. 7 cards will be turned, one at a time, and placed in conjunction with others. While some of the cards pulled are in fact not from a traditional deck, I will recreate to the best of my ability a shot of the layout for socials, because I had to figure like how he's doing this. So the first card is the Hanged Man, which is interesting because again, Jake reminded Roland of the Hanged Man card when he fell. The Hanged Man card is not Jake. At least assuming that we trust everything that the Man in Black says. So take what you will.
Is it in the Man in Black's interest to be lying right now?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because in reality, he doesn't really care in this moment. He's here as a messenger of the Crimson King. Like, I don't feel like that's a spoiler. I think he says as much in this scene. I think that he says it when they first sit down to speak. Like, I don't want to be here. I was just told I have to be here by my fucking patron.
Yeah.
So.
Business as usual.
Right? Just warlock shit. So I'm here. I now have to read your cards. And if I want to continue just doing warlock shit in the future, I have to do this the way that I have to do this. But also, like, I'm not kidding about Roland being some kind of god. There's no point to him fucking around right now. He has like a neutral, I think the Man in Black is like a neutral evil. We joke a lot that he's like a chaotic evil or something, but in reality, he's just kind of a neutral, or even a chaotic neutral.
I was gonna say, I personally hold chaotic neutral for the Man in Black. I don't.
He just kind of wants to do what he wants to do, and a lot of the more evil things that he does seems to have more in line with, and I'm not kidding, his patron. Like, he's not, he gets called a sorcerer and a wizard a lot.
Look, we all have to do things for our jobs that we don't like sometimes. And you gotta put food on the table. The man in black has to put magic in the fingy.
He has to. I mean, how else is he gonna pull enchanted rabbit meat just out of his jacket
and light the way?
Yeah, and do his fingy. I thought you had said thingy with a TH, not fingy with a F. But now that you've done the motion, I understand that you meant fingy with an F, and I support it.
Yep.
That's incredible. I feel like you're hyperer than me today, and I'm here for it.
So, the Hanged Man represents Roland in this spread. And in this case, with no cards in conjunction, it means strength rather than death. Which, you know what? I'm going to get further into the cards later. For now, I'm just going to give you the layout for what's happening here. The second card is the Sailor, which does represent Jake. One who is left to drown with no aid. The third is the Prisoner. The card depicts a monkey on a man's back, and I have been editing the episodes. I already know for a fact and remember that Taryn has made it clear who the prisoner is and why.
It's Eddie. The prisoner is Eddie Dean. It's Eddie. He's the best.
The fourth.
I had a phone call with my mom yesterday, and I told her, because to the point that we are recording this, she still hasn't fucking listened to the podcast, which is making me furious, because she would love it. She needs to listen. To date when we are recording, she's not listened. And I said to her yesterday, Mom, you need to listen. And I explained how the format of this is going.
Yeah.
I've already explained this to her, but she needed it explained again. It's not that my mom is elderly or anything like that. It's that as much as I love my mom, every great once in a while, she's usually doing something while I'm talking to her on the phone, which means she only catches about half of what I'm saying to her, right? So explain to her the format of what we're doing for like the second or third time. And I'm explaining that we're still not through the Gunslinger. And I said, which means Kat still doesn't actually really know who Eddie Dean is. And she was like, oh, no. Keep in mind, she's still only hearing about half of what I'm saying, but she heard that, and she was appalled. My mom is appalled that you still don't know who Eddie Dean is, because that's how great Eddie... But I'm talking him up so much that when we get there, you're going to be like, I don't get it. This dude's annoying. But I think you'll understand why I love Eddie so much, even if you don't love Eddie that much. And if you don't love Eddie, you're going to love Away. You're going to love Away.
I have to ask, is your love of Eddie similar to your visceral response to Christian Slater and Heathers last night?
No. Eddie is quality. Eddie is quality. It's not me. My visceral response to Christian Slater and watching Heathers. So I had seen the Heathers musical. I had not live. I had seen the Heathers musical, like, through the means that you watch musicals if you can't make it to New York and see musicals.
Bring more musicals to Reno. We do go see them when they come through here.
Oh, yeah, please do. Oh, Six. Six is coming. Six is still coming, right?
In January.
To see Six. I want to see Six so bad. I want to see Six so fucking bad. And Six is like a cross of two of my biggest special interests, which is musicals and fucking the Tudors. It's a problem. Anyways, so I had never seen the Heathers, like, movie. I don't think you had either.
I had not, no.
It was amazing. But my visceral response to Christian Slater was like a rejection of teenage me. And it was also the same way that I had loved Roland as a teenager. And I'm looking at teenage me and going, you stupid fucking moron. You would have been Veronica Sawyer and you would have deserved everything that came to you.
So much murder.
Oh my God. I don't think I would have done any murders though, because when he was like, come back to me, I would have been like, okay, just gone back.
So the fourth card. The fourth card is the Lady of Shadows, featuring a woman the Man in Black says is two-faced. I think you've mentioned who that is already, too, so I'm not gonna...
I have... Stephen King has done such a good job with mental health up to this point, and now we're gonna get to the Lady of Shadows, and I feel like that very good job with mental health is about to drop off a fucking cliff. So just warnings to everybody, including myself, as someone who, while I do not have dissociative identity disorder, I am on, like, I have dissociation, which means I'm on that spectrum. If you dissociate or have any kind of disorder that puts you in that spectrum, just be prepared. That shit's about to fall off a fucking cliff. Like, every human dissociates at some point, but I'm just saying if it's something that you struggle with, just fucking be prepared. No spoilers, but absolutely spoilers. Like trigger warning spoilers. He's not great with this, but most people didn't really understand. Like, I do think he does a better job probably with it than a lot of people understood what used to be called multiple personality disorder.
The fifth card is death, but not for Roland. The sixth card is the Tower, and it is placed over Roland. But the Man in Black will not tell him what it means. And the final card is life, which is also not for Roland. And the placement of the card is neither for Roland or the Man in Black to know. So Roland's card sits at the center of all of these, covered by the Tower. And we don't know where the life card should be. It kind of just, I don't know, it's floating around in the Man in Black's hand, I guess. Whatever.
Is it kind of like a Celtic cross spread then, with the way that there's a card covering a card in the middle and then the other cards floating around it, you think?
Yeah, it's I think it's pretty...
Okay. So I don't mean to step on your... It's occurring to me because I've never understood that, like...
Yeah.
Been able to see it in my head.
That's why I, had to, work it out. What did they do here?
Yeah. But it sounds like that, but without the line at the side of cards. Yeah. It's just the... Mm-hmm. Look at me knowing... I'm learning things about tarot. Cat still knows all that other stuff, so...
The Man in Black wraps up and tells Roland he is the last traveler and that he, the Man in Black, is just an emissary of to his boss. I do believe he doesn't necessarily name the Crimson King, but he does say, I think he says, to who he serves or some shit like that. But we're not a spoiler-free podcast. We say this often.
Yeah, no, I've named the Crimson King 4,000 times.
There's a reason
before this point.
I believe that he's the id, but I'm trying to be open to the fact that maybe it's somebody else, and I've got who he is wrong. Anywho. The Man in Black sends Roland to sleep, where Roland has a dream in which the Man in Black fills the role of God, letting there be light and land and such. Eventually, Roland wakes up, maybe, and shit is getting real trippy. I really wasn't trying to determine exactly what is and isn't real anymore by this point.
Wasn't that after Roland finally accepted, the enchanted cigarette?
I think so.
Because he was like...
I have no trust. It's broken now.
I'm not eating your magical rabbit, but I'll smoke your wacky tobacco. That's fine.
There's always plenty of rabbits, but maybe there's not enough tobacco.
He ate salty jerky for dinner instead. It's like, dude, you were just gonna take something magical. You should have ate the fucking rabbit. You could have had both.
We can't afford jerky in this house.
We can't afford rabbit.
No, I don't. You know what? I'm not a rabbit person, I don't think. But
you know what? I know that they're jerky subscription services. If somebody felt like gifting a jerky subscription service,
Sorry, that was a particularly loud vehicle.
No, that's fair. That loud vehicle was trying to get me to quit begging for jerky. I'll never not beg for jerky. Send a jerky subscription service to, like, a couple people who just really like Steve. If Stephen King wanted to gift us a jerky subscription service, maybe
we really liked The Mist. What are you talking about? We loved The Mist.
We can be bought really easily.
It's such a good story.
Hey, Max, if you want to sponsor us by paying with a jerky subscription service, like, we already talk good things about you a lot.
So many good things about you. Anywho, so the Man in Black says that he is the minion of who rules the Dark Tower, and that Earth has been given to that ruler. He goes on that the greatest mystery of the universe is its size. That is what defeats us. The Man in Black tells Roland of a room at the top of the tower. He doesn't know if the room is empty and is afraid to find out. He also tells Roland that someone has taken him seriously, which is why Roland is you're going to enjoy this because you made a point of looking all of this up at the beginning of the Gunslinger, that he is the
apotheosis.
Yes.
Yes.
We come full circle. We may not have gotten to finish the Gunslinger this time.
He just wanted to use the word again.
He got a word a day calendar while he was editing and just started.
Because we just watched Heathers, it just makes me think of when they're talking about Myriad. He's like, I got this wrong one time. I'ma use it all the time.
The Man in Black also tells Roland that he must defeat the ageless stranger known as Legion. And this is where we had to stop, because using the info from Stephen King's website, like his own endorsed suggestion that this is a reference, we know that the use of the word Legion is used in It and The Stand. We have chosen to follow the reference to It, and we'll be holding off on The Stand potentially until after the drawing of 3, but you know what? We're on the fence.
Yeah, we're gonna see what happens. It depends on what other references that we find as far as The Stand. But that's because I have some pretty strong theories about what else Legion could be referring to, and I want to ever finish the Gunslinger.
I do too, and I also have a fear of thick books, and it is a thick book, as is The Stand.
Yeah.
So, and also, there are so many people online that strongly just suggest that The Stand works really great between the drawing of the 3 and the Wastelands. That's part of why we were thinking maybe we'll bend our rules a little bit, but I guess if we get real...
Yeah, we're gonna see, because it's... We're gonna see.
We're being responsible for our own mental health, okay? That's what we're doing here.
We can't.
But this is a long ways away because it's going to take us like 8 episodes to get through. It's a thick book.
Yeah, this one's a big boy.
But I'm excited for it.
I mean, I guess we don't. It hasn't really been clear about its gender.
It has not.
Honestly, its pronouns might just be it.
Yeah.
It's. I've known people who used its pronouns. If that is true, it's just a big book. I guess I don't need to gender the book. It's a big book.
I like big books in theory.
You can be like, it can be like a really beautiful person where like you're super into them, but also really intimidated.
Yes, exactly. And it intimidates me, as does The Stand. They are thick books.
The Stand is pretty intimidating. I'm pretty nervous.
Especially because there's an uncut and a cut.
And I will say, I don't get intimidated by big books, but there is something about The Stand.
But you read history books, like, for fun.
That is true. I do. I read very dry history books just for leisure. But that being said, something about The Stand, I'm just like, I don't want this in my brain. I think that like Brian Sanderson, The Way of Kings, that book fucking broke me. something
fair.
about it was like, oh, maybe I don't like to read. Like, so it just,
when reading makes you question your choices in life.
it was great, and I only have a little bit left, and then I can go on to book 2, but holy shit, it's dense. That shit is so dense. I have become George R.R. Martin about that shit. I will do anything but finish that book. I'll be out in a fucking hamster wheel and shit, just out on the ground. Like,
Those things do look
else,
so fun.
anything else. Like,
One of my coworkers sent me like this video ages ago of, in New Zealand, I think it is, because New Zealand's amazing. I really want to go to New Zealand. Someone help me get to New Zealand.
you know what? Maine first.
I'd rather go to New Zealand. Regardless,
What about New Zealand is going to help us with a Stephen King podcast?
it's gonna make me happy.
I can't argue. I really want to go to Hobbiton, so I really can't argue. I don't want to go to the beaches.
No,
I don't want to
no.
go to the beautiful scenery. I want to go to Hobbiton.
I want to see Lady Lay.
I want to.
Shout out to Lady Lay. They
like,
are on Twitch. Their
kind
name
of-
it's Lady Lay.
It kind of feels a little stalkery, but I would like to like buy Lady Lay a drink, even if it's just like a Pepsi Max.
Yeah,
That's what they drink, right? Pepsi Max.
that is what Lady drinks.
Got it right. Yeah, even if it's just a Pepsi Max, I don't know if they drink alcohol, but
I assume they probably do.
I do too, just because that feels like a drag queen.
But
like rite of
Lady
passage.
is a gorgeous drag queen that streams horror games.
Sexily and gorgeously.
Yep, and I want to go to New Zealand and just see them. Like, that they can be performing. I don't know how often they go out to clubs and perform, or if they're more. I know that they do some club shows, it sounds like, but I also know they do a lot of digital drag. And if they're doing a club show, I want to see Lady.
Oh yeah, see, that didn't even occur to me because all of the streamers and like YouTubers and podcasters that I enjoy don't have like, they don't do shit like
They're
sometimes
indoor kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Strictly indoor.
Sometimes they'll do like live shows, but it's something like you gotta buy tickets. They announce tours way ahead of time. It's not the same as like, oh, my primary means of doing entertaining is like I do drag shows and shit. So you just don't have the option of just. So when you say like, I want to see Lady, it's like, I guess we can show up to their house. We can track them down if you want. And what's worse is I was game for it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, but sure. If that's what will bring you joy, we can do it, I guess.
I love you, Lady Lay. Regardless, in New Zealand, they have those balls like what George R.R. Martin is in the meme.
Uh-huh.
And you can just go down like this hill, and they like fill it a little bit with water so that you're running in water, and you can also mow people over. Like, there's people who can run in front of you. It looks very fun.
That does sound great.
New Zealand.
I do want to make you aware. I'm like 99% positive they have those here too.
Probably, but it's not as pretty.
That is true.
There's a reason
We could
that
have them in
Middle Earth-
Hobbiton.
Yes,
we can.
Middle Earth is New Zealand.
Can you imagine running around Middle Earth, but in a hamster ball with a little water in it, mowing people over? Just be like, I'm in Middle Earth, baby! And people are like, I'm trying to be in Middle Earth too. It's like, I don't care, pop. Like, I don't care. This is my experience only.
I'm LARPing.
What the fuck, LARP?
I feel like
If the elf was in a circle. If the elf was a hamster.
like you give some hobbits, Pippin specifically, a hamster ball. What's gonna happen is what's gonna happen.
No, I'm sorry. That's if you gave anybody a hamster ball. If you gave Sauron a hamster ball, he could be running around. He's like, I didn't know what joy was. I don't need the one ring. I just need my fucking emotional support hamster ball. Oh my god.
Incredible.
Fucking send that shit to Peter Jackson. Like, we have an alternate ending idea. Don't you dare cut that. The people need to know.
What happens if you drop hamster balls large enough for people into Middle Earth?
Can you fucking imagine Aragorn trying to brood in a hamster ball? Like, I'm sad, but also I'm in a hamster ball. The only person who wouldn't be any fucking different is Gandalf. He's still just gonna be the same person he is.
Okay. We can do this. Thank God we already got through the summary of what this chapter was about to the point we were allowed to read. Because there's like 6 pages left. And that's right. We stopped. So let's
Shit, are we just...
let's talk about the interesting things about this episode that aren't Middle Earth hamster balls.
Who's that fucking cowboy in a hamster ball? Oh, I heard they're filming The Dark Tower here now, too.
Oh my God, that would be a great place to film any movie ever.
That's why they filmed so many movies there. Now I just want them to film every movie but from hamster balls. But remember, JoJo only had 5 minutes of air. And if you put water in the bottom, you have even less air.
So I want to talk more about the actual tarot spread. I mean, that's our gimmick that we do here. We pull a card at the end of every episode because it's such a big deal to the story. And I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And tarot is a very interesting just practice. So strongly encourage it. If, you don't have a deck, consider getting one.
Yeah. There are so many different kinds. And if tarot itself kind of makes you a little squeaky, oracle decks.
Yeah.
There are even very heavily Christian oracle decks.
Yep.
There is a deck out there for everyone.
There is. Yeah, absolutely. And you can use like a standard 52 deck of cards similarly, but you kind of have to like that. There's guides online I've seen for those. I don't think you get any major arcana though, but I think they even have some setups so you can jerry rig it.
I've watched somebody sit and turn a 52 card deck into like a deck that they could use that way with just like a pen, basically making their own major arcana and stuff.
Nice.
So it's accessible. It's accessible for everybody. You just have to, you got to be crafty. But even then, like, just take a Sharpie. Like, and if you don't have a Sharpie, take whatever. You can grab a pin. I was going to say steal. You don't even have to steal a pin. So many places will just give you a pin for free. And will give you can get a hold of cards. Like, it's not this, again, this kind of magic, this kind of stuff, it's accessible. It's accessible to you. So.
And it shouldn't be cost prohibitive.
No, it should not be cost prohibitive. If you go to your local magic shop and the card, just check online.
Check online. You know what? If you got a Five Below, they also have a cheap, like, small deck. It's super cute.
Five Below is amazing.
Five Below is amazing. We're also not sponsored by them.
Would love to be.
Yeah.
Approve. Heavy approve. Five Below is like the anti-Hobby Lobby. I don't know what they actually believe in. I don't care. Their stores are the anti-Hobby Lobby.
I don't know that they believe anything in particular. I think they're just open to
They
things.
might just believe in capitalism and they want everybody's money. And quite frankly, that's the thing. As far as a business model, that's what I believe in the most.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be pushing anything as a business.
They have record players for $25. I got a record player for $25. It's not the best record player, I will admit. The speakers could be better, but record players are like fucking $100.
You go Five Below.
You go Five Below. Anywho, so tarot cards and the actual spread here. Let's start with the Hanged Man, which is the first card that is pulled, and that represents Roland. So the Hanged Man is a traditional card. This is not one of the Man in Black's own making. In short, the hanged man signifies incompleteness, sacrifice, contemplation, and perspective. One of the most interesting words that is often paired with the hanged man, and this I find it interesting because, frankly, I'm shading Roland, and it's martyrdom. Traditionally, what we see with the hanged man is a man hanging upside down, one foot extended, and the other one is bent. It kind of looks like a 4. He kind of looks like an upside down 4.
Yeah.
Generally, he is suspended between 2 trees, and I've seen different takes on how the branch between them is. Sometimes it's very clearly attached to those trees. Sometimes it seems like it's suspended from those 2 trees. Regardless, the middle piece is where he is hanging from between these 2 features, I'll say. I've seen some suggestions that he is hanging from the tree of life. Other things saying that he's suspended between heaven and earth. Basically, all things agree with the fact that he is stuck between 2 worlds.
So is there a correlation between the hanged man and like Odin? Because didn't Odin like hang from a tree for a certain amount of time until like he gained wisdom or something like that? Isn't there some kind of story like that?
I think so. This feels very familiar.
Yeah.
Norse mythology, big Neil Gaiman's amazing book. I need to reread that. I think it includes something about this. But
yeah,
I guess you could also ask Katie.
I was gonna say I also
it's too late. She's probably in bed by now.
Yeah, she I think is in bed right now. I talked to her a little bit of it. I have a hookup to all the Norse mythologies in the world. So, but
something to check on, but
yeah, I'll have to ask. I'm making a note. Ask Katie. Actually, I know that she just recently had her cards read for the first time and she got the hanging man in it. So I'll extra have to ask her because I didn't even think to bring that up when she showed me her reading. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because when we were talking about Roland, when I mentioned like, oh yeah, Eldritch God or whatever, the idea of Odin came into my mind, like as the Man in Black is talking to him, and kind of the journey that Odin takes. Like Roland as Odin kind of came up in my brain because you see, a lot of my what I haven't learned from Katie, a lot of the mythology that I know, I'm not gonna lie, came from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So while you read Neil Gaiman's book, I learned it from a video game. So I don't know who's superior.
I mean, Valhalla's got some good shit in it as far as like the mythology goes. I didn't really enjoy that game as much as like Odyssey or Origins, but God, it really needed an O name. It shouldn't have been Valhalla. It needed, like, because we got Origins, then we have Odyssey. It needed an O name.
Like Odin something.
Yeah, like, I don't care what you make it, but it needed an O name.
They could have named it like Odin's Edda or something.
Yeah.
They could have named it something like that. But I think they would have probably felt like it was giving too much away.
Spoiler for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
No.
No, I think Mirage came out. But yeah, so I mean, that game's pretty old. Yeah, I think we're definitely out of the window, but you know, spoilers for Valhalla.
Yeah, pretty much. But I know you kind of see, I believe with the story of Odin, like he is very much that like boy, father, old man. Like you see all these different facets of him. I wonder if Roland is kind of meant to be like the gun shooting, especially since Ravens.
If only you could see Terry's motion for gun shooting.
Is it better than my hamster ball motion?
Yes, it is, because you're taking both of your hands and you're
just
doing that while also moving your upper body, like your torso, like
I'm shooting guns. I'm pistol whip. Well, not pistol whipping. That would be. I'm.
Anyways,
shooting like. Yeah. Well, either way, especially with like the Raven imagery, especially in this book, like
crows are better.
Yeah, but Odin has Raven.
Yeah, he does.
Has Mimmer and.
Yeah, I think that. I don't know where all crows are, but I'm pretty positive they're a North American thing. So
Huger.
They might be in South America too, but ravens are in Europe. So that's why they're on those continents.
That's why they feel exotic, and crows just feel like fucking night pigeons.
Crows are fucking awesome.
No, they are. Don't get me wrong. Crows are awesome. I'm saying they feel... Pigeons are awesome. But because there's so many of them and they're, like, common to us.
Now you gotta tell the story about the pigeon that tried to get in the house.
Oh, no, I feel so bad for that pigeon. There was, like, because we had a ridiculous summer, and it was so hot. And I just mean the world had a ridiculous summer. The fucking Northern Hemisphere. Watch out, Southern Hemisphere. I feel bad for you, because the Northern Hemisphere had a fucking time of it. And one of the hotter days, we live in a townhouse that goes like 3 stories up, but we're also on like a cliff.
Yeah.
And so we're quite high up. And we have like a patio and then like a balcony that's enclosed. And a window that's recessed on that enclosed balcony. And I'm just playing a video game in the living room one day, and there's a thunk on our window on the 2nd floor, which is very high up. Nothing should be thunking on the recessed balcony window.
Oh my god, it was a skinwalker.
If it was a skinwalker that was like, somebody got at it, because there was a pigeon that had hit our recessed window, and it had like an open wound on like its neck or head. But we also live above a really busy, like one of our main like highways. Yeah. Here in town. And so it's entirely possible it had hit by a car. But it's so hot outside that I think it had gotten like heat damage. Though when I sent Katie the picture, she mentioned that also could have been like a disease. It might not have been an injury. It could have been like a feather mange or something. Either way, I didn't go outside to it. I just left it, like, because when I went to the window to look at it, it kept like trying to fly at me. It was like trying to get into our house, which further leads me to believe that it was quite injured, or it was sick, or something was wrong with it. I think that it was too hot. I just left it because our balcony is the way that it is. It's shaded. Yeah. So it could cool off. I was going to try to get some water out to it, but the way that it was kind of being like aggressive. And I knew, because it took the dogs a minute to realize anything was going on. But the door that goes out to our balcony is like a window, like almost floor to ceiling. So they eventually could look at it. And once they realized something was going on, they were like, well, we want to go see. Well, we're going to help it. Wink, wink. And I'm like, well, fuck, if I try to get water out to this bird, they're going to try to run out, and I don't want to be there for the fight between Rocket and this pigeon. Like, I do. That's going to be hilarious. But also, somebody's going to get hurt, and I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. So, and after an hour or two, it was gone. So, I don't know if it eventually, like, cooled off enough that it could fly away, or if it fell to its death, or if it maybe made it to another balcony on one of the sides of us where it could get water or something. I don't know. But it was fucking crazy. Yeah. Very Hitchcockian. Very. We can post a picture of that online too, because I have pictures. Yeah. Yes,
we can show you the pigeon.
Yes,
I was working upstairs.
Yes, Kat was working upstairs because Kat works from home, and I sent her pictures like, "What do we do?" And she was like, "Leave it until I can deal with it, and I will come and try to give it water," because I panicked. So I panicked because I felt bad for the bird.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wasn't sure if it hurt its head hitting our window, and then I didn't know if bird insurance was going to get involved. And
Harvey Birdman's coming for us.
If Harvey Birdman showed up at the door, I would not know what to do with myself. So.
Furthermore, the Hanged Man is often depicted with a halo around his head, which is commonly associated with learning and enlightenment, which is why you see it on the Magician. However, the incompleteness is signified by the Hanged Man's single leg being hung. Since he has that other one bent, he has not actually, completed his, processing. Additionally, if you like look at most of the art when you see a Hanged Man card, he's usually pretty serene looking. Like, he's not miserable as you would expect someone hanging upside down to be. But that's why it implies like just getting a new perspective on shit. So with all of these things, it's really clear to see why this is associated with the transformation process. The Hanged Man is forced to change his perspective because looking at the world upside down with blood rushing to your head is very different from standing up and being able to think and not gradually like wanting to puke. Anyone who's ever hung upside down for any period of time or even like hung your head off the couch, when you sit up, you're a little disoriented, kind of drunk. So there's just an abrupt change there. As I mentioned, the Hanged Man is associated with martyrdom because he is often seen being serene at the idea that he is surrendering himself to enlightenment and giving up whatever he must to achieve it. You know, like a small child. I guess Jake wasn't necessarily a small child. It depends on your definition of small, but a child. And all of this does track with Roland so far. He did sacrifice Jake to move towards the Man in Black, who he believes holds the answers for him, and ultimately to continue towards the tower, which, while presented as quite daunting, it could signify enlightenment within the Stephen King universe. On to the Sailor. This one is an original make for the Man in Black, so I don't have any exact details I can provide about it. Since we, the constant readers, are just told what the card looks like, we have a sailor who's drowning with no help coming. I will at least mention, and we mentioned this last episode, maybe the one before. At some point it was mentioned, I think it was the episode before when we were doing the Slow Mutants about the river. Water. Water is a theme all throughout the tarot. It's often associated with the Suit of Cups, but you do see it in like the background of the star, and I think the moon and the High Priestess. So you just see a river running pretty regularly. The water is also, it tends to pop up particularly when there's a lot of female presenting figures on the card. Water relates to empathic abilities, intuitions, and second sights, and we know that Jake seems to have a shine. Yeah. Or they call it, the touch? Yeah. I can see why we wouldn't necessarily want to call it the touch with a grizzled old gunslinger hanging out with like an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, that seems kind of messed up. Well, I think what's interesting too is like that can also be a synonym for being like mad, basically. Oh, they're touched in the head. Yeah. They're touched. So I think the move to shine, or moving back to, because The Shining, I think, was already out. It had already been written because the movie had already come out. The movie came out in like 79, I think, or the very early 80s.
I think it was the early 80s. We'll have to look that up because I'm not sure exactly.
But either way, if it came out that early, then the book had to already be out. Yeah. So, the shine was already a term that was in use. Yeah. So trying to move it to the touch was like, it was a weird move.
The weird move.
And I don't know why
I imagine it has a lot, that's going to get into the lore at that point, though, actually, thinking about it, because it's Dick Halloran's grandmother who calls it the shine. He's the one who dubs it. He goes, oh yeah, me and my grandma, we used to do this, and she always called it a shining. Yeah. So if Dick Halloran's the one who actually dubs it that, I guess someone else in all the other worlds has to make up a name for it, because unless they met him or his grandmother, they wouldn't get that name.
And things in different worlds are generally slightly different. Yeah. I think also, are they two different things?
Are they two different things?
Because I think that we've seen two different versions of these psychic abilities. We've seen one that's a little more... So the way that Roland is of the white, or he's one half of this equation, and then, the Man in Black and the Crimson King, they're of the black, right? Mm-hmm. If we were to start assuming that doesn't necessarily mean good or evil, it just means two halves of the same whole. Yeah. The touch and the shine could be two different. It's psychokinetic or psychometric, I guess. Maybe those are the same. It's basically like when you can pick telepathy or telekinetic. Like, you can pick something up or you can read somebody's mind. It could be like two different things, essentially, because it wouldn't be like, those aren't necessarily the same thing.
No, that's a good point.
So I think that's worth keeping an eye on.
That is worth keeping an eye on. I think that's a really good point. And so when we do talk about the sailor, we know that Jake has he has some kind of ability. And Jake in particular, with anybody who seems to have a Shining-esque ability, they do tend to drown in it. That's why they have to dampen it down with alcohol, because it's a lot to take on.
They have to drown it.
Yeah. So, of course, Jake is the sailor drowning in the middle with no help coming. Number one, it's really hard to help those individuals. And, there's the more obvious thing, which is Roland letting him fall in the previous chapter. But I'm looking at it in the grander scope of the idea that water is this implication of empathic abilities and intuitive abilities, which Jake has. Yeah. And if he is the sailor, he is just stuck in the middle of it.
What's interesting, too, is that these tend to be situations that Jake could get himself out of, because when you're drowning, you could feasibly swim and keep your head above water. I understand that in real life, that's not how that works. Like, you could be exhausted, you can't swim anymore, you could be...
Sharks.
Yeah, if we're talking about, like, on a different level, like, if you're drowning, you could swim and save yourself. When Jake is hanging off the edge, Roland could have saved him. Jake also could have pulled himself up and saved himself. He couldn't have, but he also could have. He could have bootstrapped it, essentially. There is an element where he needed help and someone else could have saved him. Had he been stronger, he could have saved himself. And with those, like, intuitive abilities, like, you can drown, you can pull yourself out of it, or someone else can reach out a hand and save you. And I wonder if that's also a part of it too, because if you're a sailor, you really should... A sailor shouldn't be drowning. That's how it feels to me. In reality, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
In a world of symbology, it's a sailor.
It's a sailor.
They spend all their time on the water. Why are you drowning?
So the prisoner is also an originally made card. Again, we're kind of going with what is described within the book. This has a lot of very heavy stereotypical imagery of a monkey on a man's back, which we all talk about. About a thing being on your back. It typically relates to addiction, particularly drug addiction. Just commonly how those kind of phrases are used.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna... There's not a whole lot to interpret here.
If I hadn't spoiled that, though, I wonder.
I think that it still would have just kind of led us to, okay, so someone has an addiction. Because that is slang that we just, as a culture, use a lot to talk about something being on your back.
There are other things that, because we know that this is Eddie, there are other things that Eddie has, like, more than drugs.
Yeah.
Eddie has a brother that brings him down.
Yeah.
And I think that is very much the monkey that's going to be on his back.
And that's definitely getting more specific. I just mean in general, like, in terms of imagery.
Yeah.
There are limited things that we can kind of pick apart here for a grander scale.
It's very much just what things are pulling you. Like, are keeping you.
There's something that you are struggling with, because the man is very much depicted as struggling with this creature on its back, and the monkey is very angry. So, there's not a whole lot to interpret in terms of tarot itself. This is just not as not as artful. Yeah, there's not as many things to pick at. I did look into it. There's a lot of different instances with monkeys. I couldn't find a single satisfactory origin to the the monkey on your back saying, but I did find a lot of different theories about the source of this saying. So it's just, I think that that's just straight pop culture.
Yeah.
And American culture. I don't know if they say that in other cultures. That would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Next, we have the Lady of Shadows. Again, this is another original card. So there's also not going to be a perfect fit here for what Stephen King was, again, trying to imply. This is also very character specific, I think.
Yeah.
However, I will say the way that this card was described did make me think a lot of the High Priestess.
Yes.
It features a woman with a shawl and a spinning wheel. And the Man in Black tells us that she is two-faced. And I think that's why I went to the High Priestess, because the High Priestess is depicted between the two pillars. And she's holding the Torah in her hands. And she acts as the divine feminine ruler, serving as an intermediary between the spiritual and physical worlds. She's a very dual existing figure in traditional tarot cards and those two pillars. It's not two-faced, but, we've got two different things going on here, because I believe those pillars are also, one's black and one is white.
The spinning wheel thing always makes me think of Sleeping Beauty. That or Rumpelstiltskin is going to be most people's association with a spinning wheel, and I think especially by the 80s, most people, it's going to be Sleeping Beauty before it's Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
And I think that while I understand that, like, we're talking tarot, and tarot doesn't necessarily have that, because these are the original Stephen King ones.
Yeah.
That he's made up. I think we have to look at those kind of, what imagery was he trying to elicit from these, right? I have to wonder if that's what he's trying to get at, because he says Lady of Shadows, and then we have a spinning wheel. And I just have trouble believing that like, first of all, spinning wheel, you're spinning lies, you're spinning, because he says two-faced.
Yeah.
You're spinning stories, because I think he mentioned something about, I don't remember if with that one he says stories. But a spinning wheel will spin stories. You can spin gold, like in Rumpelstiltskin. You can, or you're going to prick your finger on the spinning wheel and either die or go to sleep. And that, to me, is, I think, the most interesting one, because, again,
you could make a rope from napkins.
That spinning wheel is really important. And I don't know if it's that part of her goes to sleep and another part of her wakes up, or if it's that she just, if she's that spinning lies, spinning stories, I don't know, but I think that keeping our eyes on that spinning wheel portion of it is, as long as we're talking about this tarot reading, I think that's going to be, I think the Prisoner is probably the least important card of these. Because you're right, I think the imagery on it is the most just open, like,
yeah,
he's got a drug problem and he's got a brother that holds him back, but maybe we're wrong. Maybe we should keep watching it, but I think that spinning wheel is really important.
I think the issue with the Prisoner card is just the severe lack of detail about what's on the card.
Yes.
It just says, like, we have an angry monkey on the back of a man. Basically, it is not super detailed, whereas, like, the Lady of Shadows is very detailed in what is on it. And the sailor's kind of simple, but you don't need more, because there is specific imagery there that you could relate more to tarot cards. There is nothing like the Prisoner in a standard deck that I can kind of be like, oh yeah, we see monkeys on this card over here, and this is what they mean and what they represent.
Yeah.
We see a person throughout most of the cards.
The Prisoner kind of made me think of a Fool. Just straight up. That's what it reminds me of the most, is the Fool card. But that's not any imagery or anything. It just has the same, like...
Yeah.
But it's a very loose connection.
So that one's just, it's hard. He didn't give us a great description with, like, lots of detail. And the Lady of Shadows, there's a lot of detail.
He
She's
cared
wearing a
about that
shawl.
one. Yeah.
She has a spinning wheel, because while spinning wheels directly, I don't know of any that have it on there. We do have the wheel itself, which
the Wheel of Ka.
looks like a spinning wheel. I mean the wheel card.
Oh no, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense too.
And then you also have like pentacles, which kind of tend to look.
Well, and the shawl is interesting too, because you could also say that she spun her own shawl.
Yeah.
So she spun like something to cover herself with. So she's spinning like a cover for her own shadows. Like,
yeah. There's so much more to talk about in the imagery that was provided for that card, whereas the prisoner was just so simple.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of detail, and there's nothing wrong with simple, but it does kind of mean like, okay.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I can't deep dive that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So then we get to Death, which is the next card that was pulled.
And the card that made me feel like he doesn't really know that much about tarot cards.
But yeah, no, I mean, also, we're only getting, at this point, Major Arcana then. I actually have to assume that the Man in Black's deck may not contain the minor, which you can definitely do that. Like, that's not a problem. You can have just Major Arcana decks and utilize just those. But...
Or he's pulling specific cards for Roland that he wants to, like...
I believe Ka would be doing that.
I mean...
Destiny is destiny.
Is Ka one of the names that the Man in Black goes by? I could see him being a snake in the Jungle Book and singing Trust in Me does seem like a Man in Black kind of song. Now I have a new headcanon.
Death follows the Hanged Man, and I don't necessarily mean that in terms of like, this was the second card he pulled. No, literally... The Hanged Man is the 12th card, and Death is the 13th. Death is not a bad card, nor is it typically meant to be taken literally. Death ultimately is the end of a cycle, typically a transformation of a positive nature, which is why it follows the Hanged Man. Again, we have a guy who's incomplete, but he's getting that halo.
That actually makes me... I take back what I said about him not knowing that much about tarot. That actually means that he might know a lot about tarot. So I renege.
He felt like he could improve it. It needs a sailor, a prisoner, and a Lady of Shadows.
Some decks have different cards in them. Maybe he had one that did.
One of my favorite decks, actually, they added like two new cards, and I can't remember what they are. I remember one of them, but the other one, I can't remember what the heck it was. Because I have many decks.
Yeah, we won't even talk about some of my... I don't have many decks, but I have some weird fucking decks.
Yeah. So that you do get some that they'll add extra cards into, and you can, and like, if you're a Critical Role fan, they have the Molly Mock Tea Leaf set that Jester ends up inheriting, and Molly added cards, and Jester added cards.
Did Jester add like a Dick's card?
I don't know. Probably. Eventually, I'm sure she had to.
She had to have. Like,
I feel like Jester would have made an entire deck about like dicks doing
like
the different
a Dick's tarot card.
Yeah, the Fool, and they're all just dicks.
Oh my god, Critical Role is the best. Like,
Daddy's is the best. Critical Role is a close second.
That's strong coming from you.
That is strong coming from me, and I will fight anybody.
Incredible. I'm wearing my... I'm wearing my Zu Haus liegt im Herzen shirt, and I won't ask forgiveness for my German. I am doing my best, damn it, but I'm wearing my Caleb shirt right now. I probably agree with you. Last Pod, I think, is probably still the best.
Well, if they want to get on playing some D&D, I'm happy to listen to them and give them consideration. Again, death is positive transformation. To know that this is not for Roland tells us that Roland may not change. For all his sacrifice and his quest for enlightenment, he will not see the end of his journey, but something or someone else will transform, possibly for the better.
I've come to the conclusion that Roland is the Tower.
Great, because the next card is the Tower.
That's right.
So we have talked about the Tower before, because we've talked about the Tower from the Eyes of the Dragon and the fact that this is called the Dark Tower. Like, the Tower is going to be talked about a lot. This is not going to be the last time. And I don't know that this is going to be the best description of it. I do think it'll be better than the last time we talked about the power.
I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like the death is like, I feel like death is not a scary card to get. It's not a bad one, but the tower is a scary card to get. That one is a bad card to get.
Yeah, I guess it's all about perspective, because the tower is not a good card to get. Like, I would agree. The tower is a scary card, but you could also take that as, like, pick it apart. Like, let's do some, like, CBT with this.
Oh, God. No, I'm tired. We've been recording for, like, 7 hours. I'm tired.
The tower, most often people will talk about it as a very negative card, including us. You just heard us. But with all things, it is more nuanced than that. The tower signifies abrupt changes, and no one likes abrupt changes. That's part of the problem, because it's things you're not prepared for, and thus the results can be bad.
That's why, like, people are falling out of it on the card.
Yeah, when you suddenly have to pivot, a lot of people will freeze and panic, and they get scared, and fear is natural.
Fear is the mind killer.
There are a lot of feelings involved with whatever's happening, because upheaval can be traumatic to deal with, but final outcomes from upheaval can ultimately have been a positive change for someone's life. Just because going through it really sucked does not mean that at the end of the line, it was not maybe better for you to have experienced what happened. And ultimately, they tend to be necessary changes. Regardless, the tower is depicted as being destroyed by lightning and fire, with a couple of people falling out from it. The tower represents both destruction and creation. We see the tower being destroyed. However, fire can change the nutrients in soil, making the earth more fertile, meaning rebuilding can take place and perhaps new structures will be better from the previous one. And you'll notice that Stephen King really loves his fire.
But is fire a touch or a shine ability?
I think it kind of depends, because obviously we have not read Carrie yet. But if we talk about Carrie, at least the movies, it is her telekinesis that, like, screws up electrical things that spark a fire. And she didn't actually start the fire.
Yeah, but we also haven't read Firestarter.
Exactly. So I think I have to reserve judgment. I can't make you reserve judgment. If you want to judge, feel free, but you might become a fool at the end of this.
That's like my natural state. That's fine.
We'll watch the fires. The tower is placed over the Hanged Man, and that's the card that represents Roland. So an upheaval or change is upon him. At least that is how I would interpret that particular placement of a card, is that this is going to be the thing that impacts you. I don't think it's subtle. I think that's very much meant what we're supposed to think about that moment where we put this card on top of Roland.
Yeah.
He's being smothered by the tower. And as we've been reminded through chapters 4 and 5, this is the end of the beginning. So this is Roland's opportunity to choose what is worth saving as he goes to rebuild. That's my interpretation, at least. It is interesting that the Man in Black doesn't tell Roland what the tower means, despite all of Roland's demands. My summation of the tower is just based on tarot, not based on the book here, because he doesn't tell Roland what the tower means.
Yeah, I don't think he knows. I legitimately do not think the Man in Black knows, and I don't think that, I think this is the closest he would get to admitting it.
Mm-hmm. So because of my theory of the superego, the ego, and the id, my first thought was the Man in Black possibly trying to protect Roland from something? So it's interesting that you suggest that maybe he just doesn't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested there, because again, the ego acts as an intermediary between reality and the superego and the id's desires. But there's also room to change that question to what was the Man in Black keeping from Roland? So protective or just secretive, or possibly not informed.
No, that makes a lot of sense with kind of where I'm going, because the Man in Black, as much as we're joking about him being a warlock, he's described as a wizard. He's described as a sorcerer and a wizard. Roland is very much on his journey, similarly to... We already know that The Lord of the Rings is a huge influence here. So the Man in Black is Gandalf obviously, in this moment, he has to be. Because he's not Sauron. He's also, filling the other guy, the Christopher Lee.
Oh, Saruman.
Yeah. The names are too close to each other.
The same? You mean the names are the same?
Yeah, well, hey, maybe that's what Stephen King was doing. Maybe that's an homage to fucking Tolkien. But he's filling that role, and that is something that I've noticed that Gandalf did to Frodo. There was a lot that he wasn't telling him at a lot of the moments, and this moment, it almost has the feel of like Elrond, the Council of Elrond at Rivendell, where, like you said, it's the end of the beginning. Roland thought his journey was to find the Man in Black and reach this point. Frodo thought his journey was to get the ring to Rivendell. Yeah. And it turns out, he finds out when he gets there, nah, bitch, your journey is much further. Your journey is much worse than what you think it is.
The princess is not in this castle.
Yeah. The princess will never be there. He's learning a lot right here, and I'm of the impression that happens to Frodo as well. I don't remember. I have actually read Lord of the Rings. I've had it read to me on audiobook. But I don't remember. I've watched the fucking extended version of the movie, though, a billion times. There's a lot that he has to take in very quickly, and then he has to be like, well, I guess I'm going forward with this other quest, essentially. And it feels the same here. And so the way that you're kind of describing this is like, well, I don't really know what is going to come next for you. I don't know. I know that in theory, if you take this ring and you chuck it in the lava, it's supposed to be destroyed. I know nothing else now from B to C. I knew that if we got from A to B, we would know what to do from B to C.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest. The Man in Black, the way that he talks about how the size is what is what gets you.
Yeah.
And the way that he asks Roland, like, well, what did you see? It's because, I think Roland even says it to him, like, you don't know. It's because he has no idea, but he's hoping that Roland, because Roland is the Man in Black says, like, I'm mortal. I'm almost as old as you are. Roland is something that the Man in Black is not. Mm-hmm. He has something that the Man in Black doesn't have. Similar to how Gandalf couldn't handle the ring. Frodo could take it. He couldn't. But he wants to know. He wants to have that knowledge, and he was hoping that Roland would give it to him. Because that's what he hungers for more than anything else. And I think that's why he has that, like, chaotic edge to him. Because he's been around for so long, he's probably already seen the good side of shit. It's like when you play a video game and you do the good run, and then you have to go back and do the bad run to see all the other shit. Yeah. I think we're just seeing the Man in Black's bad run through everything.
I support this.
No, I do too, because I struggle to do the bad runs in video games because it makes me feel really guilty. I don't want to be mean to people. But you have to, or else you don't see the rest of the story.
Exactly, yeah.
And I do feel like that's what he's doing. Like, he's done the rest. He's bored. Now he wants to see Kingdoms Fall. Now he wants to see what that looks like, because I think he just wants the information.
Yeah.
In his head. He wants to know what is at the top of the tower. He's a little afraid. He doesn't know if he wants to know, because he doesn't know if he can handle that language, or not that language, but that
knowledge.
Yes, thank you. Knowledge. He doesn't know if he can handle all that shit, but he needs Roland to get it, because he knows that he can't ever do it. He needs Roland to get it for him and then get it back to him.
Interesting.
He needs Roland to take the ring because he can't do it. You gotta go. You have to do this journey for me because I can't do this journey. But I want what's at the end of it. And that's why I think that he showed him exactly what tarot cards he wanted him to see. And they're ones that were very easy for Roland to grasp. here are the people that I need you to go and find. Here's a little death to scare you. And here's the tower so you remember what it is.
Well, then let's talk about the last card.
Oh, God.
Life. Once again, this is original
another
card.
easy one for him to...
It's original card, so and only so much things we can say about it. It's not meant for Roland, and it's not meant for the Man in Black. And we have very limited info about this card. There are a couple of cards I would venture a guess maybe similar in nature to the Life card. And that first would be the Wheel of Fortune. Again, I mentioned the wheel when we were talking about the Lady of Shadows. The Wheel of Fortune is the middle, stage. You're in the middle there. And then the other card would be the World, which is the end, basically. The wheel is the halfway point of the major arcana. World is completion. Both depict four corners with the Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, and a circular something. The wheel is a wheel, sometimes turned by a woman, and the world features a wreath in a circle with a woman at the center. Different points of the journey, one is still turning and the other is complete with rebirth. And the very layout also very much is reminiscent of a wheel, with Roland's card at the center and, the tower on top of it. It's very much like a wheel. You have to have a spoke so that it can actually turn, and you usually have to have a cap.
Like the Wheel of Ka.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
The wheels just keep turning.
Which I believe the Wheel of Ka is referred to as female often.
Okay.
When it's talked about, it's often referred to with female pronouns. If I remember right, I could be wrong. They could not use pronouns. But I do think that it's referred to with female pronouns.
Okay. That's interesting. How many people end up in his quartet?
It's Jake, Eddie, Susanna, Father Callahan, and Boy.
Okay.
But Father Callahan comes much later, and I always forget to include him. I always remember it as the base 4.
So, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So, we got a bull, a lion. I think Scorpio is Scorpion.
Yeah, it should be Scorpion.
And then Aquarius. What is Aquarius? I'd have to look at one of the cards to know, and I'm not digging the wheel out right now.
Yeah.
But I just was thinking, if we're being surrounded by...
I think Aquarius is like a person holding
like a pitcher.
Yeah. Just like pouring a pitcher.
Which I know
which is water again.
When we get into decks that do use more Christian imagery, that it's supposed to be like the archangels.
I think that the corners could also be the archangels, something like that.
Well, I just mean they translate
yeah,
like the lion is supposed to be one in particular, and
yeah, I think so. I think it's like Michael or Gabriel because it's like the Lion of Judah or some shit.
Yeah, like this. I just looked up the picture of the wheel, and they're all reading books.
Yeah.
It's kind of adorable.
I think because it's the Gospels. I think they're reading the...
Oh, that must be what it is. It must be like Mark, Luke, John, and...
But you're not wrong. I think it is also the archangels because you're right. The lion is one of them. They correspond. You have that right. So, I remember that.
But either way, this is why tarot is so freaking interesting.
Yeah, that card, Life... For some reason, life to me always made me think of the sun or the star. So last time we pulled the Chariot, which is forward motion through willpower, it definitely took so much willpower to get through the mist. But we're going to take a look at the cards and see what it has for our descent into it. The Sun, and it's an upright card. See, I was just talking about the sun. The sun, it has several sunflower. It has sunflowers on it, which we were talking about the last time that we watched it. Yeah. It's got a bunch of sunflowers, and it has a child, a naked child, riding a horse, wearing a crown of sunflowers. And it obviously has a sun that is drawn very coolly. This is a really weird fucking card to draw for us about to fucking read it. I'm not gonna lie. Just the art on it makes it really fucking weird for about to read it.
Ka has a plan for us.
No fucking joke.
So the sun is a symbol of optimism, success, and good health. You know what? I think that's fitting because I'm actually kind of excited to read it.
I'm super excited to read it.
It often corresponds to a successful accomplishment and a good feeling.
Maybe because we have such good feeling. My mom even was excited for us to read it.
If one is going through a difficult time, the sun is a sign that things are about to get better. We did just suffer through the mist. So, you know what? The sun encourages sharing our good energy with others, and we are sharing it with you today. We are excited to go into it.
You post the pictures of these, right?
Yeah.
Just wait until y'all see this, like, naked baby. You can't see anything, thank God, but for some reason, there's just a fucking child. Just a child for no reason, and so many sunflowers. And literally, like, the It movie had the sunflowers on it and everything.
It did, yeah.
This is such a wild card to pull.
And it's going to be a while until Roland sees the sun again. Sunrise or whatever.
Fucking go. There are other worlds. Go and deal with those. Like...
We realized we were dumbasses who forgot to actually say what to read for the first It episode when we return in February. So for that, we will be reading Part 1 and Interlude 1. You can follow us on Instagram at ManyConstantWorlds. You could DM us if you have any thoughts, questions, things you'd like to put out there. You can also email us at manyconstantworlds@gmail.com.